make some time for your presentation to council. Bryce, are you there?
Yes, sorry. My dog was just barking at me to let him out.
No problem. I think we've all had something funny going on in the background of a Zoom call at some point through all this, so no worries. Welcome. We'll give you about 5 minutes or so to make your presentation, and then we have an opportunity for questions from council members. I know that you can't see everybody that's in council chambers. You can see right now myself and Councillors Blackburn and Thiessen, but we're all here and we're listening. Take it away.
Perfect. Yeah, I guess thanks for letting me join in. I just wanted to, I guess, seek, go in the proper process, permission or approval through some way or form to use the ice surface behind my property. The last couple of years, I have been clearing it and using it for, for my children and the children in our neighborhood, for skating reasons, obviously. And I've been more and more frequently approached by bylaw for obvious reasons. And yeah, like I say, I'm just trying to see what I can do to try to see if I can get approval, through the proper avenues or whatnot.
Okay. Okay, yeah, we do have, so in our council agenda package, we have the form that you submitted saying that you're sort of looking for either explicit permission to use it or if the city could post sort of use at your own risk. And then we also have the pictures that you sent. So that was all included in our council package. So we did see the stuff you sent forward to us. Okay. Okay. So any questions? And I'm sorry, is it Bryce?
It is Bryce. Sorry, I was signed in as my son there earlier.
Yeah. No problem. No problem. Totally understood. So any questions for Bryce? Sorry, did I see Councillor Thiessen? Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Thiessen.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor Given, and thanks for bringing this to our attention there, Mr. Masson. Just a question in regards to your interactions with Bylaw. Is it just a friendly, you can't be skating on the ice, or is there warnings, potential for tickets, stuff like that that are involved in those conversations?
It was more warnings, potential for tickets. I proceeded to have a conversation with the bylaw officer. It was the same gentleman each time, and if I recall, it was 3, if not 4 times where he and I had spoke. I pointed out that there is some signage by the storm pond, and the city does have it delegated as a storm pond. The signage is, in regards to no swimming, stay clear if there's, if there's rain or immediately after a rain. But I mentioned there's nothing about use at your own risk. There's nothing about no skating. And the storm pond, it's designed to hold water. Like, yes, it takes in water, but it also lets water out. Like, it stays at the same level all the time. It was mentioned to me by the bylaw officer that, it's just, like, he made a joke about being the fun police, but it's just liability purposes. Like, I realized I didn't have a permit or permission. And so that's kind of why I'm approaching the issue this way.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate the answer.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Thiessen. Any other questions for the delegation? I guess, yeah, Councillor O'Toole.
Yeah, I was just wondering, and thank you for being here tonight. It's always good to see a new face in the council chambers, even though it's via virtual. But have you ever taken the time to drill that ice at any given time to see how thick it was? I know you said you had children, and I was just being a responsible parent that you might have done that. And if you did, what were the thicknesses of the ice?
I did take an ice auger down to the ice surface before. I even attempted to clear the ice, and I guess for everybody's information, I was using a snowblower to clear the ice initially, and with light snowfalls, I had a sweeper, basically a snowblower with a brush. But yeah, I took that ice auger down there, and I believe it was the end of November or beginning of December last year before I felt that it had been cold enough for long enough to warrant even testing the ice. And when I did test it, it was about 10 to 11 inches thick. and I tested it a few other times throughout the winter. And by the end of the winter, when I was having most of my discussions with the bylaw officer, the ice was 12 to 14 inches thick. And I tested it in numerous places, you know, throughout the year, like just to make sure, as everyone knows, our weather changes constantly. So as you say, like I do have children. I have 3. And a lot of our neighbors and people in the community come over for skating. So it's not just a handful of us out there at times. So I want to make sure that things are safe.
Thank you very much for your response. Take care.
Okay. Any other questions for the delegation? So I don't see any here in council chambers. Bryce, thanks very much for the presentation. So the way our council agenda works is we have the delegations, you present, we go through the rest of our agenda actually, and then our action arising from delegations is sort of towards the very end. You're more than welcome to stick around and listen. Or if you want, we could also have somebody from our administration follow up. I think we have your contact information on the delegation form, and they can let you know what council did with the issue. I'll let you know that the most likely outcome is that we would refer this to administration, so they could give us some additional information about sort of what's going on and what the rules are. And that would, so essentially what you've done tonight is started the discussion. And really appreciate you taking the step to do that and going through, you know, some hoops to do so. There's not going to be a yes, go ahead from City Council tonight. I think most likely Council say, okay, so what are the rules and, you know, what would bylaw say about this and all that sort of thing. But we will make sure to follow up with you one way or the other.
Perfect.
Okay.
We'll have an opportunity to make another statement later on.
So no, if you want to sort of close, this will be the end of your time. We do have another delegation that's going to come on following you. So if there's something else that you'd like to let us know, by all means. And then if you ultimately don't get the resolution that you're looking for from whatever council does, then you can come and see us again and tell us that you thought we didn't get a good solution for you. But if there's something else that you want to say to close, you're more than welcome.
Thank you. Just quickly, I know I looked into the city's bylaw, and it seems that the city has a blanket bylaw on every water body in town, you know, which I totally understand. With speaking with, I guess, a representative from the city of Grande Prairie, I was told that the city tried a pilot project on the reservoir by the college for a skating surface, and it didn't turn out all that well. I just feel like the city is willing to look at these situations to try to make, you know, like the ice, I guess, or the bodies of water more available for people where they're trying it themselves. So, you know, if we do it in a safe manner where, like, if volunteers are brought in or if there's safety sheets, checklists, I guess you'd say, that are filled out properly and submitted, then, you know, that other people should be able to try, you know, doing this as well. But anyway, thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for, again, coming to present to council. We really appreciate it. Appreciate hearing from you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thanks very much, Bryce. So in terms of leaving the table, you can just turn off your camera and your audio. You are more than welcome to listen into the rest of the meeting if you wish. I think we had another delegation scheduled, and that was Tia and Ray. Hello, there we go. Welcome. So you've been to council before. You know, we invite you to give about a 5-minute or so presentation, and then we have an opportunity for questions, as you just saw. And then any follow-up will be towards the end of our agenda. So take it away.
Perfect. Well, good evening, Mayor, council members, and guests. So, of course, my name is Tia, my business partner, Raylyn, and our request of council this evening is to perhaps revisit bylaw C1064 under Part 2, Licensing Provisions 3-4-A. So currently the bylaw reads that a separate business license is required for each business location, and correspondingly, the city will issue only a maximum of 1 business license for cannabis retail per separate business entity. We would like to ask that council strike this as part of the bylaw based on the following reasons. 1, currently, in no other industry does council require this same or similar bylaw. There are several multi-branches of companies that run under one parent company, and that bylaw then seems a little biased to our industry. As we would align similarly to alcohol, this is not a bylaw amongst alcohol industry as well. So number 2, with this bylaw in place, It places an unfair amount, of financial burden on cannabis owners. With the existing bylaw, cannabis owners are required then to carry costs of incorporation, accounting, annual returns, etc., in order to grow our brand in the city. Number 3, cannabis is also regulated by provincial guidelines, as we know, and they state that if an existing business owner applies for a secondary location, we then can bypass the timely process of due diligence. If, however, we are required to open and run a second business entity that this bylaw C1064 has, and we are no longer afforded that option, and we are forced to complete a lengthy process as a new cannabis retailer. And finally, the original concept is my understanding that 1064 and separate licensing was a part when the city of Grande Prairie was capping the amount of cannabis stores in Grande Prairie. We've since removed that cap, and so at this point, it doesn't seem right to leave this requirement as an attachment when that part of the bylaw no longer exists. So based on our above concerns, we are hopeful that Council will adapt an amendment to the bylaw, and we'd like to say thank you for taking the time tonight to listen to our concerns. And is there any questions for us?
Yeah, thanks. First, I'm just going to recognize Councillor Palat. Councillor Palat, did you just want to turn your mic on?
Thanks, Mayor Given. I just need to step away. I think I've got a conflict with this issue. I didn't realize I didn't read the notes on the public before the public hearing.
Sure. Yeah. So given the topic, Councillor Palat is going to declare a conflict of interest out of an abundance of caution. Appreciate that, Councillor Palat. Okay. And so Councillor Palat will step away from the council table. Any other questions for the delegation? Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. Thank you very much, T and Ray, for coming in and presenting here. I think it's a good thing that we can discuss this now. We've had about a year and a half under our belt, almost 2 years. Maybe it's over 2 years. I don't know. It seems like yesterday. Anyways, I guess part of the reason behind limiting only one cannabis retail store per owner was the concern that a big retailer might swoop in and just start consolidating and purchasing all the other name ones, and then just having their name brands like McDonald's cannabis or whatever it is rolling through. So I guess my question for you is, as small business owners and cannabis retailers, do you think that do you have any concerns that if we do open this up, a company such as Circle K, which is now partnered with the Fire and Flower Company, and has the big dollars backing them up, that can just build, cannabis retail stores besides convenience stores, that it might actually negatively impact your business?
So I don't think so, because they can still do that. They just need to open a separate company. So T and I could open 213 Alberta Limited and still open a cannabis store operating as Hayes and have 2 stores. So it just makes it a little harder the way you guys have it set up. But we can still do it. There's no cap on if we have a business in both of our names. It's just if it's the same business. So I think companies like Circle K or these bigger companies, it's easier for them to do it for this bylaw because they have way more money. So for them to open up another company it's not a big deal to them. But for somebody like us to open another company, it costs extra money and everything like that. So it's a little bit harder.
I think at the end of the day, what Raylan's saying is that the workaround is there, whether it's for a small franchisee or a big company. The workaround is still there to open another company. They'll still get their legs in the door whether they want to. Eliminating this bylaw is just going to alleviate financial burden for small mom and pops like us. I don't know if anybody else has come, but Raylan and I are looking for a second store in Grande Prairie that has already been approved. And so this bylaw is really setting us back. This is the difference between 2 months and potentially 8 to 12 months.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate your answers.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions for the delegation? I don't see any questions from our council members. I do have our Director of Infrastructure and Economic Development potentially with some information.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Just for Council's benefit, administration does have a report going forward to the October 13th committee dealing with this issue. So there will be an opportunity again for the debate to happen in public around the bylaw. And this is a follow-up from our last 1-year review. It's been approximately 1 year since our last review, so our 2nd year. And again, that's next Tuesday at committee.
And I I believe Raylan and I are speaking at that meeting as well.
Okay. Okay, that's great. So, so there will naturally be a forum come up, and that was a part of Council's motion when we passed the bylaw in the first place to have a 1-year review. And then when that 1-year review happened, we asked for another 1-year review. So we created an opportunity to have these kind of discussions at the outset. Okay. I don't see anybody else with any other questions for either of you. I think you might have heard my explanation before about the most likely thing to happen would be to refer to administration. And given the fact that we'll be having that discussion soon, in this case, we maybe just sort of receive your presentation for information. And I'm sure it'll be top of mind when everybody gets together in that review that Mr. Glavin mentioned. Was there anything else that you wanted to say to close?
No, thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thank you both.
Take care.
Okay, so that is all of our delegations for this evening. Councillor Palat, I don't know if he is still in the back there. Yeah. Okay. We have 2 doors into the council chambers, and Councillor O'Toole went out to helpfully find Councillor Plott through one door, and Councillor Plott walked in the other door. So the jokes are never as funny when you have to describe them. Yeah. Okay, so that was all of our delegations for this evening, and that will take us into our public hearing. I would call to order the public hearing for Bylaw C-1260-124, Restaurant and Drinking Establishments. I would call this public hearing to order and look to administration for an introduction. Mr. DeRoche.
Thank you, Mayor Given and members of council. Just going to start up my PowerPoint here for you. So the proposed land use bylaw amendment is to add restaurant and drinking establishments, major and minor, as uses in the land use bylaw. This to work. There we go. Sorry about that. So the current land use bylaw accommodates uses for businesses where minors are allowed at all times or when minors are prohibited at all times. And there isn't a use that accommodates a combination where a business could operate as a family restaurant during the day and more like a drinking establishment in the evening. There is a benefit to separating the uses of restaurant and drinking establishment in terms of clarity for adjacent property owners, for people applying for permits, and for the Development Authority in terms of potential land use implications, because drinking establishment has some potential nuisance uses such as later night activities and the potential for noise. So rather than consolidating the uses or an approach like that, we're adding an additional set of uses that would accommodate the type of facility that more or less combines the two. So a bit of history on it. The previous version of the land use bylaw, C-1100, accommodated this through eating and drinking establishments as a use. However, when the current land use bylaw was adopted, there was no use that accommodated these things, and so that was lost. There are existing businesses such as Canadian Brewhouse that operate in this way, and they have approved liquor licenses. It's just with the new land use bylaw, they're technically legal non-conforming. So some of the challenges that we have with the absence of such a definition is for Alberta gaming, liquor, and cannabis licensing. So when a business wants to apply for a license to allow minors for a portion of their hours and prohibited them in the evening, AGLC refers to the development permit and use that they were approved under. And so since we don't have that option, AGLC can't always issue a license. This gap also makes certain existing businesses legal non-conforming. And then it limits flexibility for new or existing businesses that want to have that option for their operations. So to address this challenge, we're proposing to add restaurant and drinking establishment, major and minor as uses. And the definition basically combines restaurant and drinking establishment. So I've highlighted the key component here where it says minors may be prohibited from a portion of the development or during certain hours of operation if minors are prohibited from a portion of the establishment, such as in the case of a restaurant with a lounge, a form of physical separation between the two spaces is required. And so that portion where it highlights the potential for the two uses to be separated within one facility by physical separation currently exists in the land use bylaw, but it's under the section for multiple uses. And since we're creating a use that consolidates the two, it provides greater clarity and makes it a lot simpler to include that clause in this definition. And the other bit that's been highlighted is just what makes this a major versus a minor use, and that the area of the development is 300 square meters or greater. So with the minor development, you can see the definition is the same. The difference is that it's less than 300 square meters. The uses are being proposed as either permitted or discretionary in all the same places that drinking establishments are permitted or discretionary. And this is based on the portion of the use that has the potential to have the most nuisance uses. So we went with mirroring the most strict use. So that's drinking establishments. I'm not going to read them all off, but as you can see, it's exactly the same for drinking establishment and restaurant and drinking establishments. In summary, the proposed amendments will address a gap in the land use bylaw and provide businesses with greater flexibility in their operations. Administration recommends that council has and gives all three readings to the proposed amendments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Drosch. I will first ask if there's any questions for administration. I see Councillor Bryce and then Councillor Thiessen.
Great, thanks for the presentation. Thanks for bringing this forward. I'm just kind of curious, was this request industry driven and somebody in industry asked you to do this, or was this administration just realizing that there was miss in our bylaws?
Thank you. Through the mayor. Actually, this was identified to us by Alberta Gaming, Liquor and Cannabis. So they had contacted a development officer because a business was inquiring about changing their license. And when AGLC was reviewing the request, they noticed that our bylaw didn't really allow them to do this. And so based on that, we thought it prudent to create an amendment.
Holy smokes, red tape is actually being cut by two orders of government working together. I didn't know that was possible.
At the same time. Any other questions? Councillor Thiessen, sorry, you were next.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. Thanks for bringing this forward, Reid. Mr. Drosch, just a question in regards to that line, form of physical separation between the two spaces is required. So I think back to my youth when I was still just barely under the age of 18 and Hammerheads opened up, and at the time they allowed during the daytime hours, underage people to go in with the supervision of an adult and have lunch or whatnot. I also think of other businesses such as like Mad Hatters or maybe something more, I guess, a bit more entertaining, like Better Than Fred's, which has an entire pool hall that's there. So under this bylaw, if any of those organizations wanted to maybe change their license and get some daytime family sales or clientele in, would they literally have to build up a wall between the bar and the rest of the eating establishments in order to conform?
So again, through the mayor, no, that I can see that there's a bit of confusion there, but they would not. So this only applies to businesses that are intended to be that way. So they're set up like that, similar to Earl's or Moxie's, where the facility is designed to have a minors prohibited section and a minors allowed section by design. But that's not a requirement for any facility that wants to do this. Businesses like Mad Hatters or Shark Club or whoever else, they could do this through their operating hours and not require physical separation.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any other questions? I do have one question, Mr. Drosch. Can we just look at the table 1 with the comparison of permitted and discretionary? So can you speak to me about why in local commercial a minor restaurant and drinking establishment is discretionary yeah, can you just sort of speak to the rationale there? I guess if it was major, I would appreciate that. I don't even know if they would fit in that sort of size, but minor seems to be the idea of a neighbor, you know, a very flexible neighborhood amenity, I guess. And so, yeah, can you just speak to me about administration's sense of why it should be discretionary in the local commercial, why a minor restaurant and drinking establishment would be discretionary in local commercial?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So local commercial tends to be very close to residential uses, and having a discretionary development officer allows adjacent property owners to be, if we take that extra step to notify adjacent property owners, and the development officer has a little more discretion to create requirements that maybe aren't explicit in the bylaw to help reduce nuisances to adjacent property owners. And so it's not meant necessarily to be more restrictive on the use in terms of prohibiting it. It's more just to have greater ability to impact how the actual layout is done and minimizing any potential impacts on adjacent property owners.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I don't see anybody else with any other questions. I will just check to see with administration first if there was anybody from the public that wished to make a presentation on this public hearing. It seems a bit strange to call once, twice, for and against, but I'm not sure that we're required to do that now with all the changes that have happened. But are we aware of any members of the public who had intended to speak to this bylaw this evening? I'm looking to the city clerk, and she's indicating that there were not. And do we have anybody else that is on the Zoom call or is dialed in? No? Okay, so there obviously were no members of the public intending to speak to this. Are there any last questions for administration before we close the public hearing, Council? Seeing none, there's a question. Councillor O'Toole, a question?
Mayor Given, I just have one question. When we were talking about the different delegates, the different locations and types, would it include, like say, outdoor, we call it, so you can go outside and drink?
Like a
patio type style? Would there be a need to, or would they be included in a prohibited and non-prohibited situation?
Thank you. Through the mayor. So the existence of a patio at the business has no impact on this. So a business with a patio could take advantage of this opportunity. There is no trigger based on the presence of a patio.
Okay, thank you very much. That clarifies. Thank you.
Okay, then seeing that there are no further questions for administration, we would close the public hearing and move on to business arising.
Mayor Given, I would like to make a motion to give first reading to bylaw C-1260-124 being an amendment to the land use bylaw.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. Obviously no discussion or debate on first reading. I will call for the vote. Those council members in council chambers, please vote. Do my math. 6 votes cast in council chambers. Councillor Blackburn, how do you vote?
In favor.
Councillor Thiessen, how do you vote?
In favor.
Thank you. And that motion for first reading carries unanimously. So I'll look for a motion for second reading.
Mayor Given, I move that we give second reading to bylaw C-1260-124.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. Any discussion or debate on second reading? I guess I'll just ask if there are any other council members that are interested in considering this minor use as permitted in local commercial. The size and scale of it, I think, could potentially be appropriate, given that it is intentionally a place that is inclusive. I mean, it's explicitly a place that could include youth. It's something that I would be interested in supporting. I don't know if anybody else has that feeling, and I don't necessarily feel strongly enough about it that I would leave the chair and ask somebody else to chair so I could make the motion. But yeah, I'm just curious about that. I mean, the more times that we have things discretionary, I appreciated Mr. DeRoche's discussion that it just gives, is not intended to be preventative, but just to give administration more flexibility. more times that we make things discretionary, the more red tape there actually still ends up being. And I think that by and large, the neighborhood pub that allows children for certain times of the day is a reasonable thing in many parts of the world. And yeah, so if there was anybody that was interested in that kind of direction, you know, I would happily support an amendment to see that recognized as permitted in the local commercial zone. And if there was nobody that was willing to make that motion, I wouldn't feel that bad about it either. I see Councillor Blackburn.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I do agree with you regarding the concept of making this change. Sorry, I'm looking at two things at once. So I would make a motion to amend, and I'm sorry I can't come up just right away with the proper wording, and I'm not sure whether the bylaw itself needs a wording change or just the chart.
I think it would be the bylaw amendment needs to be amended to reflect restaurant and drinking establishment minor as a permitted use in the local commercial district.
Sounds like a good motion. I'll make that motion.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Blackburn. So open for discussion, debate on that amendment. Any discussion or debate on the amendment? Sorry, Councillor Thiessen, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. Actually, I fully support this motion. It grazed across my mind earlier today when I was rereading my agenda package, and you know, I just wasn't sure. I might be stepping on people's toes, but I think you know, introducing the neighborhood eatery or the neighborhood pub might add a little bit of character to some of these strip malls that tend to pop up in all our new residential areas, and maybe give our developers a little bit more something to think about when they're developing those as a place where, you know, you can have a bit of a hub for your own community instead of having to drive all over town to go find your hot spots. So I guess for all those reasons and for building neighborhood capacity, I think this is a good motion, so I will vote for it. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Thiessen. I see Councillor Bryce in the queue, and Councillor Clayton's asked to have the amendment read again. So maybe I'll go to Councillor Bryce first, and then we could have the amendment read back again. Councillor Bryce?
Hearing the amendment would be good for me too, actually, before I speak.
Okay. Then we'll turn to Ms. Karaszewski.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Moved by Councillor Blackburn, Council amend the bylaw to reflect restaurant and drinking establishment minor as a permitted use, striking discretionary DO.
In the local commercial district.
In the local commercial district.
Well, two thoughts. Is one, just a housekeeping one, and I'm wondering if Councillor Blackburn might consider a friendly amendment, but the way I'm hearing that amendment is that would make restaurant and drinking established, so something that's this hybrid model would be permitted use, but it would still leave just a restaurant and just a drinking establishment as discretionary uses. So I don't know why you'd make this permitted use, but you wouldn't make at least just a restaurant a permitted use. So I'm wondering if this is actually the amendment that Councillor Blackburn would like to make, or if there's a friendly amendment that you'd like to make, or just, it seems weird to me not to make everything a permitted use.
Appreciate the observation. Certainly the bylaw that's in front of us is specifically on restaurant and drinking establishment. If there was a desire to do it sort of more broadly, I would encourage council to look at the other categories and see what administration, might think about that. The information that we have in front of us today was restaurant and drinking establishment, and that's why I brought it up. I didn't consider the others because it wasn't the topic of the public hearing today. So.
And then we closed the public hearing, so is the ability to ask administration questions, has that ship sailed, or?
No, I think we have an amendment on the floor, and so if there's a question about the amendment or the impact of the amendment or the bylaw, I think that's probably reasonable.
Yeah, so my apologies. I know that we already asked about patios, but my gears weren't turning to this point at that time. So honestly, I wasn't paying attention to that question the way I needed to pay attention to with this amendment. So, a patio, is that if if we made a restaurant and drinking establishment as a permitted use, would a restaurant and drinking establishment also have the right to build a patio, or would that be something that they'd still have to get development officer approval for? Would that patio be discretionary use, even if the actual establishment was permitted use?
Mr. DeRoche?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So a patio isn't the use that you get the development permit for. Adding a patio might require a new development permit because it changes your site plan. But the presence of a patio, again, isn't tied to any of those uses.
So, and then I guess what's the process for getting a patio in terms of, is there an opportunity for the city to go, when somebody's applying for patio, is there an opportunity at any point for the city to go, whoa, no, that doesn't work because of the house that's 50 feet away from it?
Mr. DeRoche?
Thank you, Mayor Given. Again, so if they were going to add a patio because of the impacts to the site and things like that, they would be required to get a development permit because they're changing the layout of the site.
Right, but would that development permit be given to them by right, or would there be discretion on the part of the city in terms of whether or not they grant that development permit for the patio?
Mr. DeRoche?
Thank you. So the patio would have to meet the site standards requirements. It's not a permitted or discretionary use in of itself. And so there's site standards for distance between different aspects of the development, including a patio, and it would have to meet those standards.
So, and great. I think where I'm going with this, I think what I'm likely to do is support this amendment today, but then not support having third reading, because what my worry is I need to learn more about that patio. For me, I don't know if I love making this permitted use, but it's not a hill I'm going to die on. But absolutely, I need to learn more about the impact of a patio. Putting that in a local commercial area could be a challenge. So I want to go back and to have the time to read the land use bylaw and learn more about patios before we vote on this. So I'm likely to support this today, but if this amendment passes, then I almost certainly won't be supporting having third reading today.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Bressie. Any other discussion or debate on the amendment? Seeing none, then we'll call for the vote on the amendment. As I think we all just heard read back just a little while ago, I will call for the vote in council chambers. Please vote. Thank you. And on Zoom, Councillor Thiessen, how do you vote?
In favor.
Thank you. Councillor Blackburn, how do you vote?
In favor.
Thank you. And that motion carries unanimously, so we can move on to second reading, move on to having third reading as amended.
I move to have third reading at this meeting of Bylaw C-1260-124.
Sorry, just a point of order. I don't think we actually passed second reading. We passed the amendment, but we didn't actually pass second reading.
Thanks for that catch, Councillor Bressie. Yes, absolutely. So we do have to vote on second reading now that the amendment to the bylaw is passed. Thank you very much for that catch, Council. So any other discussion or debate on second reading as amended? Seeing none, then I will call for the vote in council chambers. Please vote. Thank you. And on Zoom, Councillor Blackburn, how do you vote?
In favor.
Thank you. Councillor Thiessen, how do you vote?
In favor.
Thank you. That motion carries unanimously. I see Councillor Bressie in the queue.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Given. I'm also gonna move that we. I'll look to you, Mayor. I'll look to you, Mayor Given. I'll tell you right now that I'm not supporting third reading for this tonight. So, if you want me to defeat that and make this motion after that, that's fine. But where I'd like to get is I'd like to give administration direction to, when we talk about this in 2 weeks, also bring forward necessary amendments to make restaurants and drinking establishments permitted. Like I said, it just doesn't make sense to do this and not do those others. So I'm curious if you'd like me to move an amendment to the bylaw now, or try to get a motion passed after we're done. Talk about third reading?
Yeah, I'm kind of easy either way. I think the intent is to have that information come back so council could consider whether or not they'd like to make any additional amendments before third reading. I think if we are not moving on to third reading and we had a follow-up motion requesting that information, I think that would be reasonable. Unless the clerk sees any reason why not for council to request that information during the readings of the bylaw?
Thank you, Mayor Given. I am in favor of a supplementary motion made after council votes on whether or not to have third reading to give administration direction.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so Councillor O'Toole has the motion to have third reading.
Read it again. So I move that we have third reading at this meeting tonight of bylaw C-1260-124.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. Any discussion or debate on the merits of having third and final reading here this evening? We've already heard some, and appreciate that and acknowledge it. I guess I would just, we've had that discussion. I was going to ask for perspective from administration, but I think that's probably not appropriate at this point. So then we'll call for the vote on the motion to have third and final reading this evening. In council chambers, please vote. Thank you. And on Zoom, Councillor Blackburn, how do you vote?
In favor.
Okay. Councillor Thiessen, how do you vote?
In favor.
Thank you. And that motion does not carry. Just make sure that we're able to catch the votes before they disappear. Okay. And so that will come back in 2 weeks. Is there any other business arising? Councillor Bryce.
Great, thank you, Mayor Given. I would move the council direct administration to, when this bylaw comes forward to council next, to also bring an option to make necessary bylaw amendments to make restaurants and drinking establishments as permitted use in local commercial districts.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Bryce. Open for discussion or debate on that motion of direction to administration. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, then I will call for the vote. In council chambers, please vote. Thank you. On Zoom, how do you vote? Councillor Blackburn?
Opposed.
Okay. And Councillor Thiessen?
In favor.
Okay. So Councillor Blackburn is opposed. Councillor Thiessen in favor. And that motion carries with one opposed. Okay. Then I think that handles everything with respect to these proposed changes to the land use bylaw. And that would take us then to delegation business. We had our 2 delegations this evening, first with Mr. Masson and Ms. Chabot and Porter. Anybody care to make any motions from those presentations? Councillor Friesen?
Thank you. So I would like to move that we receive Tia and now I've lost it.
Ray.
Yes, Tia Chabot and Ray Porter's presentation for information. I would make a motion to perhaps do something a little more significant with it tonight, but given the information that it'll be before committee shortly, I think we can address this issue at that time. So for tonight, I'll move that we accept it for information.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Friesen, any discussion or debate on that motion? Seeing none, then I'll call for the vote. In council chambers, please vote. Thank you. And on Zoom, Councillor Thiessen, how do you vote?
In favor.
Thank you. Councillor Blackburn?
In favor.
Thank you. That motion carries unanimously. And then we had our other presentation earlier as well. Councillor O'Toole?
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. I move that administration contact Mr. Bryce Masson and try and work with him on some way of resolving his concerns. And so I don't know exactly what's going to take place, but I do know that he's got quite an entourage of people that are skating on that, and he's kind of been warned a number of times, and I just want to know if administration would be able to work with him. I do realize that there would be insurance obligations and stuff like that, I'm sure of, but the responsibility of anything that did happen would have to be on his name. So I don't know how we could work with that, but at least have administration have a conversation with him.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Toole. I see the city manager maybe has some comment for us. And I guess just in terms of advice for council, if we don't know exactly what we'd like administration to do, that might be a sign that we should ask them to give us some information at a committee so we can decide whether or not we'd like them to do anything. But Mr. City Manager?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was going to suggest that perhaps we incorporate this or refer this to a appropriate standing committee. We will do some checks with our legal advisors. Ice is a very variable material. So in our climate here with Chinook winds, the density, the bearing capacity of the ice varies very rapidly, sometimes overnight. So this is a city feature, city facility, as a storm detention facilities. So if there is an accident, the city for sure would be named in a claim. So I want to be cautious with this and check with our legal team, and then perhaps write a recommendation to council. This recommendation is going to be based on a level of risk and tolerance to risk that council may consider. So that would be my suggestion.
Okay. So, Councillor O'Toole, are you okay with that in your motion to refer to the appropriate standing committee so administration could do that review and give us some good information?
I'm pretty sure that's what I said in the motion.
That's what I heard. That's pretty much what I heard. So if you're comfortable with that, Councillor O'Toole,
yes, I am.
Referral to the appropriate standing committee? Okay. Other discussion, debate? Councillor Bryce.
Yeah, thank you. Could I maybe get the motion as it's captured red?
Sure. Yeah. Ms. Garbaschewski?
Thank you, Mayor Given. Moved by Councillor O'Toole, direct administration to refer this request to the appropriate standing committee for further discussion.
Okay.
If I may ask another question, Mayor Given. So just a question for administration. I did give them a heads up that I'd be asking this question. I'm not sure if Mr. Miller's on the phone, but I know we gave a grant of $5,000 to the Signature Falls Neighborhood Association last year to have ice skating in their neighborhood. And I'm just curious if anybody from administration knows if that ice rink did happen, and if so, how it went.
I see Director Miller is there. Director Miller.
Thanks, Mayor Given. Thank you for the heads up. So we did connect with the neighborhood association, and they did what they did with the $5,000 is they purchased a kit, and it converts the sports pad into an ice rink. And the excellent investment for the neighborhood. It's a system that clicks together, and takes about an hour to set it up, and then it's ready for the ice to be made. They said it was very well utilized last year. There was kids on it every day after school and on the weekends as well. And they're excited for the cold weather to come again this year so they can use it again. So it goes on the sports pad in Signature Falls. And they also they installed some benches around the area too, so that you can sit on the benches and watch your kids, or sit on the benches and put on your skates. So it was a good, they really appreciated the grant that we did provide them. I do have other information as well. We did reach out to AUMA, if you wanted me to share some of that in regards to Mr. Masson's request.
I think the desire here was to refer it to a standing committee so council would have a chance to see and read those, any information administration might have, and consider it before making any motions. So,
okay.
Yeah, Councillor Bryce, that you had your question answered about the grant to the Signature Falls Neighborhood Association.
Yeah, and I think for me it's part of this motion. I'm just kind of curious how administration is going to interpret it in terms of we've made an investment in making skating available for Signature Falls. So if this motion is just going to have us have a report on the Signature Falls storm pond, I'm really not interested in that and directing administration to do that, because we've already invested in that neighborhood. But if it's going to be about just storm ponds in general, opening up skating opportunities around the community, then I'm interested in having that conversation. I've seen administration nod their heads. I think that this would be for all storm ponds. So unless somebody corrects me on the assumption that this would be for all storm ponds, then yeah, I'm happy to support this motion.
Okay. Thank you. And I'm seeing that the information the city would get would be broadly applicable. So, yeah, okay. I don't see anybody else with any other discussion. Councillor Thiessen.
Yeah, I'm just going to, because I've been sitting in the queue, and I really wanted to just reiterate what Councillor Bryce just said, that I hope that we're going to take a look at all storm ponds in this regard. For me, I look forward to that report coming forward, because, essentially Muskogee Park, our pond there, is a skating rink at times in Crystal Lake. If you ever go down to the docks in the wintertime, you'll notice that people are constantly walking over there. So yeah, I wanted to clarify that motion. I just wanted to say so because I don't think we should be looking at this as a one-off. I think we should be looking at this as a total overview of all our storm ponds. And judging by what Councillor Bryce got in chambers, I'll take that as a yes out of chambers. So I'd be happy to support this motion. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Thiessen. I don't see anybody else with their hand up. Then I will call for the vote on the motion of referral. All those, in Council chambers, please vote. Thank you. And on the Zoom, Councillor Blackburn, how do you vote?
In favor.
Thank you. Councillor Thiessen, how do you vote?
In favor.
Thank you. That motion carries unanimously. I believe that deals with both of our delegations. And in terms of council member reports, I believe we only had one council member with a report. Councillor Friesen, you had South Peace Regional Archive Society, and council members, if there were any others that I missed, please let me know after Councillor Friesen concludes her report.
Thank you, Mayor Given. It wasn't that long ago that I gave a report on South Peace Regional Archives, and that was the regular meeting, and I don't need to, of course, repeat that information, but this, the AGM has since happened, and there were a few things I wanted to really point out. It was rather run-of-the-mill as AGMs go, some new board members and some shifts and that sort of thing. But what I did want to point out was how very involved some of our volunteers are in the community. There was a few volunteers who were given awards for hours of service to the archives. One was to Randy Repka, who actually lives in Penticton now, but has done over 250 hours of transcription services for our archives remotely. So I thought that was really neat that even though he's moved away, it's still our community and our region is important to him, and he is putting hours into helping our archives manage their information. Also, Grace Weidman, who serves on the board, as well as provides countless volunteer hours collecting and transcribing materials and just generally lending a helping hand. She was awarded for greater than 250 hours. And Kaylee Dick, who has spent the last 4 years, I think, just over 4 years, gathering information on World War I veterans and archiving information on over 1,100 vets who are local individuals. She's also written blogs and articles and made video presentations regarding the veterans. And her work actually serves as a model for other archives in Alberta and in Canada. So that's pretty exciting. Kaylee has put in over 1,000 hours of volunteer time to the archives in that project. And the Beth Sheehan Award was for community leadership as it relates to the archives. There were 2 awards given out this year to Karen Burgess and to the Valley View Town and Country News. And so that's just a ton of shout outs to folks in our community and organizations who help the archives do the good work that they do. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Friesen. Were there any external reports that I missed? Any council members had an external report they needed to give? Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. I'll just go quick because there's not too many new updates. On September 23rd, the downtown BIA met for the meeting, largely to discuss the loss of funding through the province and how we've reached out to our local MLAs to try to help us problem solve our way through that, or at least find new ways of funding. There's also lots of discussion about the downtown project, Phase 4. That was also brought up today at a strategic planning and promotions subcommittee meeting, which is actually more extended than our regular downtown meetings, but it was good. But yeah, there are some business owners along that 100th Ave way that are expressing a bit of concern, as well as concern about not knowing what's actually going on with the downtown project. So Councillor Clayton and I were at this meeting today, and we try to alleviate some of the fears. But it was really just a good, solid message to us and our administration, Connor Coney, who was there, as well as members from our economic development team. Rebecca Lee was there. It's important that we continue with this communication and we do our best to provide the businesses who are affected with this downtown Phase 4 construction project going on, scheduled currently for 2021. They have access to their doors and available access that's made well known to the public, so that the businesses there don't have to endure another lean summer. I mean, we had one with COVID. It was unexpected, big pandemic here, but it was good to hear that there are still some concerns, because it means that there's still more communication that we could do, and we can maybe work our best in this 4th phase of the downtown construction project to ensure that our businesses don't suffer through it. Also, on September 29th, Nighthawk Board met as well. It was a fairly quick meeting. It was our standard AGM, and no new members, but everyone was still in good standing, and we did our elections back in June, so we didn't have to do any extra elections. We did go over the budget. We're paying off some debts, and we got our review on our comedy night, which did fairly well, considering it was its first ever outdoor comedy night event. We sold over 290 tickets and made over $20,000 on the silent auction for the evening, and all accounts have been very positive about the event as it is. And yeah, no new updates on the Hill, but we expect to get something coming forward by late November. I did suggest to Jonathan and the members at Nighthawk that it might be a good idea to request some potential extra capital funding before we get to our budget processes. So something for our council to be aware of, since I was the guy dropping the light bulbs. Anyways, that's all I got. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Councillor Thiessen. And Councillor O'Toole.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. I was just looking through my calendar, and I did attend a couple of important meetings. I was part of the Community Futures. We had a symposium here this last week, and we also had some board training as well. And some of the information that was brought up through training, it was great for the new board members. Stuff that we had to deal with or have dealt with in the past, it was explained in detail, so it was a good refresher for the older board members, old as been on the board for more than a few years, and the young ones that are just currently elected. Also, the Combative Sports Committee that we have arranged for the province will be once again speaking to each other via Zoom this next week, and we've got a whole allotment of people from different areas of the province, including AHS and other areas as well. So those are the two meetings that I've been reading emails on and getting stuff ready, and that's my two reports. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. If there weren't any other reports from external agencies, boards, and commissions, then we'd start Council Roundtable, and we'll start with Councillor Plott.
Thanks, Mayor Given. I didn't have specific events, but just lots of coffees with people in the communities, mostly concerned about downtown, which I think we're all getting, about our potential new home for over by Dairy Queen that we're dealing with a lot of VLA area residents on, and then just some general business conversation. So overall, mood was good in the community. The people I talked to, just concerns about things like, which is normal operations, and nothing else to report.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Plott. Councillor Friesen.
Thank you. It was nice to get a little more back into the community again this week. It seems like every week we're invited to a few more things. On September 25th, I had the opportunity to get together with the Minister of Culture, Minister Ahir, who was here for Culture Days and also for a ribbon cutting in the community room at the Community Village. And from her, we very much got the message for nonprofits to I believe the words she used was batten down the hatches because funding, as we well know from the UCP, is in short supply. And so that was a little disappointing for the folks in the room to hear. But it was wonderful that to see Ministra here for Culture Days. And also for Culture Days, I got to go to the Caribbean Festival, and I took my mom along, and we really enjoyed fashion shows from different areas. The first one was from the Bahamian area, and then the second was the second set in the fashion show was African fashions. So it was really neat to see and understand, even within that, you know, the broad area of the Caribbean, the differences in fashion. And I also, I didn't even quite realize how active Girl Guides still are in our community. And I was invited to spend some time with Girl Guides working on a service project this past week. So I spent last Monday evening with them. And Girl Guides, this was the Pathfinders and the Rangers, so the older girls. And they still are really directive of their own activities, and as such they can do things that they're interested in and really explore things that they might not otherwise be able to explore. So I enjoyed spending the evening with them and wanted to give Girl Guides a shout out and let everyone know that they're more than just cookies.
Thanks very much, Councillor Friesen. Councillor Clayton.
Thanks, Mayor Given. As noted, it was great to get out in the community and have an opportunity to get together with people over coffee and sort of get into some sort of semblance of a new normal. So, but a couple things I wanted to highlight. I had an opportunity to attend virtually a Travel Alberta Rebound Strategy Update through Grande Prairie Regional Tourism. It was a Zoom call, but it was through Travel Alberta and facilitated through the province of sort of what the provincial rebound strategy looks like going forward in regards to rejuvenating the tourism industry. As well, I wanted to say thank you to CLT and as well as specifically Director Bork for putting together the regional AUMA convention viewing parties, 2 days of opportunities for regional municipalities to come together and virtually attend, which is traditionally our annual convention where we have an opportunity to get together with urban municipalities from across the province. It was, thank you to Mayor Given for representing us well as always, and it was a nice opportunity to see some of our partners from across the region in one room watching watching issues together so that there was a similar sort of sentiment in the room, regardless of how everybody sort of felt about the topics. It was nice to all be together. And as well, that went on to 2 days. So thanks to CLT and Director Bork, and as well to Revolution Place for hosting the event. I think it went really well. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Councillor Clayton. Councillor O'Toole.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. I too want to give my kudos to the organization for providing the opportunity to be at the AUMA convention virtually. I was really impressed with both speakers, how well they did, and what they tried to get across about being a Canadian and Albertan. Also, I attended the Filipino Association of Grande Prairie fun run, and I gotta thank Miss Eunice Friesen for helping me do my touch the toes. I couldn't reach mine, so she put her feet in front of me so I could touch her toes, and she did the same with my feet. We have as you get older, your arms get shorter. So I just want you to be aware, you young folks, that there's going to be a time when you're going to want to be able to have some support like I got from Eunice. I also want to give you the heads up that the International Day of Peoples with Disability is December 3rd. We're planning a virtual event this year. It's going to be a bit of a hybrid. And what I wanted to let you know is this will be, I don't know how many times I've been on this board, and this is going to be the first time that we've done a virtual event. But it's looking like it's going to be a great one again. And yeah, I also wanted to talk about, I think I got it all. So thank you very much, Mayor Given.
Great. Thanks, Councillor Toole. Councillor Bressie.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Given. Yeah, AUMA was a real highlight. Also, kudos to the organization for putting that on. Kudos to Mayor Given and the board for getting a great convention on, even though it was virtual. It was filled with education. We got resolutions, and Grande Prairie got its resolution passed. And there was some good time with colleagues. And I will never forget President Barry's outfit on trivia night. That was a sight to behold. And I think my highlight of AUMA, though, was before the convention having education sessions. And I took part in a number of the education sessions. But I think the one that was a real highlight for me was having staff from the Minister of Justice's office talking about the Police Act review, and just seeing real dedication from the Minister's office to make sure that Police Act actually gets modernized, because it's well overdue. So I'm glad to see that's happening. Two other highlights was I got to go to Orange Shirt Day along with Councillor Friesen, who did a great job bringing greetings and sharing with the newspapers about why it's important from the city's perspective. So really appreciated Councillor Friesen's words, and Councillor Thiessen was also there. And although it was a smaller event than most years, and I missed my bannock and stew, it was also great. It was more of a ceremonial event this year, and it was really fun to be able to participate in and watch some ceremony. That's something that I really missed in our community. So that was a real highlight for me. And speaking about Orange, man, fall was beautiful. Our leaves lasted so much longer this year than usual. And I took advantage of that to do some good old-fashioned door knocking. Throughout the term, I've been trying to do that about once a month. I haven't done that throughout the COVID era because I haven't known if people wanted me at their steps. But I took the advantage of fall to do some door knocking, and I do it because that's my way to get a real random opinion from our residents. And it was good. It was the general sentiment I got was that people seem to be happy with where the city's going, and they seem to be appreciating what's happening in our community. And so I got real positive vibes, at least on the doors that I hit. So I was happy to hear that.
Great. Thanks very much, Councillor Bressie. So we'll go to our council members on Zoom. We'll start with Councillor Blackburn. I see your mic's open.
Thank you, Mayor Given. A couple of things, both about Zoom. First of all, I'll repeat what's been said by others regarding AUMA. It was a real pleasure to be able to attend the AUMA convention this year because it was being done virtually. Otherwise, I would not have been able to go. So it was a good convention. I liked the idea of having the education sessions before the AGM itself, and I was able to attend a few of those, and they were all worthwhile. So again, kudos, and I'm very thankful that I was able to participate thanks to the arrangements for using a virtual platform. And the other thing that I wanted to mention is that I did have a chance to sneak into council chambers the other day and have a look at the plexiglass partitions that have been set up at the council table. And kudos to whoever it was that designed and built those. They seem to be very well done. I love the idea of the sliding portion of the plexiglass so that there is actually a barrier between seats as well as between the desk positions. And I want to say how grateful I am to council that you're willing to consider continuing with being able to meet virtually, because although the partitions do provide some protection, I can be further protected by staying at home. And right now, that's what I need to be able to do, is to be able to stay protected until my condition changes some. So I'm really, I feel fortunate that we're able to carry on the way we are, and that I'm able to participate in what I feel is an almost fully participating way. So I'll close with that. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Blackburn. Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I'll just reiterate what Councillor Blackburn just said. I'm thankful that he can be a part of these meetings as well, too. And COVID has its bonuses, I guess. Just a shout out to Director Bork for really working hard to ensure that council chambers are a bit better partitioned. And I'm not sure what the construction worker's name is. I'm going to say Buddy. But thanks to Buddy for making it work, and all for under $10,000. Good job, team. Two events I wanted to just talk about. One, Orange Shirt Day. And reiterate what Councillor Bryce said. Councillor Friesen gave very eloquent words to the group there that resonated meaning with many of the participants, and also talked a bit about our own responsibility as non-Indigenous people to recognize our mistakes of history so that we don't repeat it, and that we don't have to have days like this where we're remembering how people were treated poorly so that we don't have to go back there. So thank you very much to Councillor Friesen. No one could have said it better than you did that day. And I think I told you that at the event. It was really an honor, though, under the leadership of Leonard Cardinal, who ran the ceremony, that I was able to participate in the prayer, gift tobacco, and join in on the tea dance. And that was all before we unveiled the bench and the plaque for Orange Shirt Day. And unfortunately, but I don't know, I guess kind of fortunately, unfortunately, the plaque, the plexiglass, was vandalized with a bunch of scratch marks on it. And when it was unveiled, that's when we saw that. I think everyone saw that. It was a bit disappointing to see that. You know me, I like to spin positive sometimes. I said it kind of looks like a dream catcher. I got on the horn with our parks people right away, and I know Councillor Bryce got on the horn with our city manager to get that fixed right away. So I just want to thank Councillor Bryce for acting, as well as our CEO, Mr. Galante, for acting as well in our parks department. So, we could not leave a dream catcher there, but put it out as it was supposed to be to honor our Indigenous people and in the hard part of our Canadian history. Also, since I'm talking about the hard part of Canadian history, on October 4th, I was also at the Walking with Our Sisters event alongside Mayor Given, who also gave great words about moving forward and beyond what was bad. And I believe if I can sum it up neatly, is that it is all right to recognize that horrible things have happened in the past, but the more we talk about it, the more things change for the world that we want to create. And so thank you, Mayor Given, for those words, because I know it meant a lot with everybody there. And for me, it was a special ceremony as well at that day. There's the unveiling of the Eagle staff that was dedicated to grandmothers and to missing and murdered Aboriginal women, unveiled by Elder Loretta Peranto English and Clinton Soto, band counselor for Sturgeon Lake Cree Nation. This is all in honor of a friend of mine, Delane Lambert English, who the Eagle staff was her idea to bring forward at the next Walking with Our Sisters event, this year being the 11th annual. So it was a beautiful touch for a beautiful soul who is no longer with us here. And the cool thing about this staff is typically the males are the one that walk with the staff or run with the staff, but this one was specifically made and honored for grandmothers and for women. So as gifted, the runners for that day were women and men. So it was really great to see that we're moving forward in that direction. And hopefully with the recognition of all this horrible Canadian history, as Mayor Given so eloquently put it himself, we can move beyond this and create the world we want to see, where we don't have to remember history such as has been lived by certain parts of our people. So that's what I did. Thanks so much.
Thanks very much, Councillor Thiessen. I will close. I think most of the events that I attended have been discussed. We'll certainly pass on Council's congratulations about the AMA conference. Staff did a fantastic job. in organizing that, and I want to thank our City of Grande Prairie staff for organizing the local event. I was very proud to see that we were one of the locations across the province where our regional neighbors were getting together. So thanks very much for everybody who had a hand in organizing that and in that idea. And I will pass on City of Grande Prairie's congratulations to AUMA staff. On Saturday the 26th, I was helped kick off the opening to the Caribbean Fashion Show. I was there, I think, before the minister and Councillor Friesen arrived. Wasn't able to stay for the end, and so it sounds like between the two of us, we had the whole thing covered. But it was great to see this relatively new association really launching some events in our community over the last year. They've only been formed and incorporated for the last year. And it was great to see them active and sharing their culture with the rest of their fellow Grande Prairie citizens. On the 30th, I was not at the Orange Shirt Day, but I was here at City Hall at the same time to proclaim the International Day of Older Persons in Grande Prairie. I was joined by a number of seniors and senior serving organizations in that proclamation, and was happy to be able to do that. I also, as Councillor Thiessen alluded to, attended the Sisters in Spirit vigil and walk. Attended with my daughter and had some difficult conversations on the way about why we were having a walk like this. But I will say those conversations are why we have the walk. With that, we will call our meeting adjourned. Thank you.